Hello everybody, welcome to Total War Warhammer 3. This is going to be the first battle replay that I'm going to have on the channel. I've had a couple of days now of games, probably played about 15 games or so, and yeah, enjoying the new game mode. This was a game that I played yesterday against quite a good player. Khorne versus the Ogre Kingdoms. Ogre Kingdoms very strong. So we'll go through the armies here on the load screen before we get in to the battle. But yeah, this is actually a VM clan member. So I was definitely forward in the chair when I saw that I was playing up against a VM clan member and they were going ogres. But Khorne, I think, do reasonably well in this matchup. I think I've played it a couple of times and managed to win it. So. Having some good luck here. Exalted Bloodthirster is my lord. I've come in with Bloodthirst and Deathbringer. I'm probably going to start cutting Bloodthirst and just going with Deathbringer. I also I've taken all... I'm pretty sure I cut these. I'm not sure that is actually correct, but I have been taking him basically just with Deathbringer. It's a nice combat steroid and obviously keeps him as cheap as possible. 3 units of Chaos Spawn just with their enormous weapon strength. Good against the ogres that generally aren't, you know, massively armored. Fleshhounds, probably one of the most undercosted unit in the game at the moment. Fantastic speed, fantastic hitting power, and then a couple of Warhounds just for sort of stealth capping objectives and getting some eyes and getting some flanks and that kind of thing. In my reinforcement, I have a Cultist of Khorne, who is, yeah, this is definitely bugged because I definitely did not bring Foe Seeker on him. I've been taking him with just Gate of Khorne. Blood Crushers, very, very good at killing monstrous things, despite the fact that they are anti-infantry. You can also charge up their weapon strength once you get them overkill, so good to get them on a unit of Noblars or something like that in the early game. Charge up their weapon strength. We've got some Chaos Warriors with Halberds in our reserve force, just for the anti-large and a bit more sturdy hitting power. Bloodletters, more Fleshhounds, Furies, and Chaos Warhounds. So a nice combination of meaty infantry and mobile threats. Very high damage dealers across the board, as you'd expect with Khorne. So for the ogres, Scrag the Slaughterer and an Iron Blaster up front. You can pretty much guarantee you're going to see that in most matchups. We've also got a Stonehorn with a Harpoon Launcher, which I thought was a cool pick, as well as some Man-Eaters with great weapons and some Noblar Trappers. So all the sort of expensive stuff is up the front, outside of this unit of Man-Eaters with pistols in the reserve force. 4 units of Gorges, another, you know, almost auto-include for the ogres, very strong in combination with Scrag. He's got his own sort of saber tusks. You know, he's fast, monstrous sort of cav, nearly, you know, fast monstrous infantry, and then bulls and Noblars bringing up the rear. They're quite cost effective. They're not all that expensive, and they do have nice speeds, and they cap like infantry. So quite a well-rounded army. Lots of options in reinforcement slots between both hard hitters and you know, cheap reinforcement tools. So let's jump in and we'll see how we go. So here we are on the Death Pass map, quite an open map, one that we'd no doubt be familiar with coming from Warhammer 2. My Exalted Bloodthirst is having a bit his say on what's going on. So immediately hounds are going to come up, sit under this crevice here. Likewise this side I've got the Fleshhounds and the Warhounds in the trees here, not going to reveal themselves. Spawn are going to take some hits now. I was a little bit indecisive here about what to do, whether to rush up and expose myself to the potential of the Iron Blaster and that kind of thing shooting me down. You'll see here the opening salvo from the Iron Blasters is extremely punishing. A couple of unit models actually being killed, 2 of them, and a lot of damage. So yeah, the spray fire here is even on units of like monstrous infantry, very, very punishing. He's going to fire again. I believe he's shooting my Bloodthirster this time. That one was a bit of a whiff, so lucky there for me. Again though, hounds really great here because they do cap like infantry. These ones are actually on the point, so I'm going to start capping that as soon as the timer runs down. We might get a bit of a fast play just in the early game, just so we're not sitting around waiting for too long. But Fury's been spawned in. I just wanted to send them basically in to occupy, potentially distract a little bit, just so that my spawn can make their way up. I am also going to reroute the Fleshhounds around to this side of the map because I do see an opportunity here to maybe single out some of these single entities. They're not sort of massively supported. There are some Noblar Trappers here who are actually going to throw their little sharp stuff into the Furies and do a lot of damage. Sort of, yeah, caught between bringing all my other stuff up. So Fleshhounds are going to come around again, punishing shots down the flanks there. A couple of unit models being killed, 9 in fact, extremely nasty. As we see the Fleshhounds here, not really appreciating this fight to be honest, but at least the Noblars are turning to fight here. against something that's pretty cheap and disposable as the spawn will come out. Now 1-to-1 man-eaters with great weapons to spawn probably won't be a great fight for the man-eaters, just because the armor piercing that they're packing doesn't really matter as much against spawn. 40 armor doesn't really concern the massive weapon strength of the spawn, but look at the damage that they are. I might have gone early on that call. The Stonehorn definitely coming in. I'm going to see an opportunity now to pin in the Iron Blaster here with my Flesh Hounds. Again, I just don't want it shooting. I understand I'm probably going to lose these Flesh Hounds now that the Bulls have jumped on them, but they will fight to the death. That's the beauty of having your demonic units. Now I have summoned in some Bloodletters to come up and help me cap the point. Likewise, some Warriors of Khorne. We have got 4 seconds. We're going to cap this point here. Likewise, my Warhounds are moving around now that the timer is up to cap the flank points. Over this side, I'm probably not going to be able to cap this point initially, just because there are some Noblars flooding in, and obviously Ogres do count as infantry for the sake of capping. The nice little Gauntlet Fist. So I have to learn all these unit abilities, because at the moment everything's just a cool effect to me. I'm not really sure 100% what everything's called, so bear with me. But the halberds here, as they were originally on sort of the way up, I was a little bit worried that they were actually going to just be basically worn down by just the sheer amount of power or hitting power of Ogre Bulls. But as you'll see, they actually hold here surprisingly well. So we've got the 2 outside victory points at this stage. Now we're sitting on them nicely. The Ogres are capping the middle just with the the saturation of Noblars. And unfortunately, my Exalted Bloodthirster is taking a fair bit of damage from the Man-Eaters. We put a few hits into the Stonehorn. We have pushed at least the Iron Blaster back, and we have one Spawn of Khorne have indeed managed to finally rout off the Man-Eaters, to the unbreakable nature of the spawn being pretty big there. And I'm kind of purposely holding my Warriors of Chaos back there, my Halberd Warriors, because I did want to wait for these Flesh Hounds to jump up and occupy this flank before I really press them into a fight. So as you can see, Bloodthirster has dropped. He did actually drop a movement order here. I did send him in after Scrag, but something has gone wrong and he has returned to the sky, so he's going to have to be back in. I also have my Cultist of Khorne down here as well. He's going to make a beeline for the Iron Blaster, summoning the Bloodletters here, basically just to force the Man-Eaters with pistols back. And I've got my Hounds around this side, maybe coming in just to get a bit of a rear charge, just to get some more nips into the Ogres. Chaos Warhounds out here have been routed off, but they are returning. And this is what I mean, like the spawn are just... I mean, the unbreakable nature of the spawn means, 200 nearly weapon strength is just an absolute... That's just absurd. And given that they just fight to the end, they won't crumble. They put a lot of work into this Stonehorn, who surprisingly, I think it has 7,000 or so hit points. Might have expected a little bit more than that, to be perfectly honest. Scrag's here doing some whirlies with his cauldron. He's fighting away. We haven't seen any of the Gorges summoned into the battlefield yet. However, Darth is bringing his Ogre Bulls and his Noblars away from the point here. Now, there were some Saber Tusks over here that I did manage to get a unit of Flesh Hounds and Warhounds to come in on. And you are about to see the power of the Flesh Hound right here. They make a bit of a number on these Ogre Bulls. We'll come back and check in on them later, but I've also got the Chaos Warhounds, basically just trying to hold the cap in here. I know I can beat these Ogre Bulls with the Flesh Hounds, so just trying to get as much... Just don't want the Noblars to be able to basically support in that fight. I also have some more Flesh Hounds coming around this side. They are honestly just such a good unit. Some Tattered Dogs over here. Halberd's still going strong in the main fight here. We also have one remaining spawn around here. We have the Stonehorn getting pretty much bullied here by the Bloodthirster, and Scrag is getting very, very overextended here and not really in a neighborhood that he wants to be in. The Hounds here, you'll see in a sec, are going to be brought over to try and just ensure that the Stonehorn can't rally, and then be probably recalled for a slight refund. Exalted Bloodthirster now going to go after Scrag, as well as the Cultists and the Bloodletters coming onto the cap, just to put some weight on here. The Halberds still going pretty strong, 168 kills. Many of them may be Noblars, but that's that's a power of work that they've been doing. Bloodletters now, obviously, probably should be going after these Man-Eaters, because they are putting some pretty bad shots into my Halberds, who are about to rout. My Exalted Bloodthirster, unfortunately, is crumbling. Does manage to restabilize his leadership. but only 300 or so HP left. He's probably not going to last much longer, given there is some missile pressure coming into him. More Bloodletters coming up to try and reinforce this flank. But good thing about Bloodletters is 38 speed is speedy enough on most maps to get them back into the fight. Unfortunately, my Bloodthirster has perished. It is going to go down, and the hounds that were chasing the Stonehorn, unfortunately, routed off the field because they are cowards at the end of the day. But you are going to see me respond to this. The last thing I want is for this thing to be able to be recalled, because then it gets to heal, it comes back to this side of the field. I want to be able to kill it off here, so I am going to be summoning a unit of Flesh Hounds. And speaking of Flesh Hounds, have a look at these Flesh Hounds here. These are the Flesh Hounds that were dealing with those Ogre Bulls. 38 kills, they've lost about a quarter of their HP in doing so. The Warhounds managed to chase the Noblars off. They're going to follow up with another charge here, and we did actually chase the Flesh Hounds off the battlefield, the Ogres off the battlefield here with those Flesh Hounds. Like I said, Flesh Hounds coming in here, it's just all Flesh Hounds Khorne. Like, you could actually make a Khorne army with just Flesh Hounds. They are that good. So the Stonehorn is going to go down, and then the Flesh Hounds are going to come back into the fight. We are getting some Saber, nice use of the mobility here, Saber Tusks and some Noblars coming around to cap this point. I am ahead by just over 1,000 on cap points at the moment, because I have had both the flanking cap points. This one's obviously been exclusively mine, despite some pressure earlier, and until now we did have this point capped, and Scrag is managing to get some distance between the cultists, but we're just sticking on him to make sure he can't come back, and likewise he cannot be recalled. My infantry has consolidated themselves quite nicely onto the capping point now, and these man-eaters are literally between a rock and a hard place with the Warhounds here. Oh, I thought these were Flesh Hounds. Never mind, they're just Warhounds. Never mind, here come the Flesh Hounds. And there's the Pause Bug. So a bit of a 2-for-1 here actually as well. The Iron Blaster is going through this formation, so I will be wanting to potentially pull these hounds out and actually have them chase the Iron Blaster off and let the Flesh Hounds deal with the Man-Eaters. Over here, some Ogre Bulls charging headlong into my Bloodletters. That'll be a pretty atrocious fight, but the Ogres are quite healthy, and we have 2 Gorges. Finally seen some Gorges. Probably will be pulled down by 40 remaining Bloodletters. Once again, my opponent trying to sort of sneak in with some Saber Tusks, but even in this healthy state, the Flesh Hounds, once again, are just going to do a little bit of a number. And guess what? I have some more Warhounds in a Vanguard spawn here, ready to just come in and reinforce this fight. These Saber Tusks are going to take a charge here. I think they may have just got their counter charge, but they are so close to the white line that, yeah, with burst damage taking them down, they don't have the highest leadership Saber Tusk pack. They will stay in the fight a little bit longer thanks to the rampage, but they're going to route straight off the white line. And once again, you're going to see Flesh Hounds just be able to do what they do best, kill everything. Ogre Bulls there, we'll come back and check on in a sec. But I have taken now the middle point. My Bloodletters just sitting tight here. The Ogre Bulls here have been finished off by these Flesh Hounds. The Iron Blaster, I think, unfortunately did manage to rally, but we do have some hounds just over here, which we could probably pop onto the Iron Blaster. And even though my opponent has taken this far point, I'm over 2,000, I'm nearly 2,500 points ahead, so he will be getting some comeback mechanic. But it's sort of just too little too late. I'm kind of happy to just forfeit this one now. I was actually trying to pull my Flesh Hounds out, but the Saber Tusks did sort of just keep pulling them back. They were sort of tethered to them. And now we're just getting up. We basically just want to stop. My opponent, I know, even if he does cap this point, by the time he does cap it, I can probably just hold the middle point now, given I have some forward, some sort of forward deployed units of Flesh Hounds here just to see off and just delay, if anything. I mean, at worst, delay. I mean, the Gorges probably can finish these. Probably can finish both of these Flesh Hounds off, but it's just a matter of running out the clock now. I could probably be moving these Bloodletters up as well, but I was just wary of obviously perhaps some Noblar Trappers coming in which are stalked, even some Gorges which are stalked. So again, just leaving my Chaos Warhounds at the back of the point to ensure that they can contest capping for just any amount of time longer. I am within sight of the finishing line now, and it's just the Noblars are not going to make it here. Even with this point capped, I have the middle, and there is no way back in for my opponent who can't cap this. And that's going to be a win. A decisive victory. I'm not sure how decisive, and this is one, I guess, a little bit, if there's a negative to this game and what it highlights about the new game mode, is it does sort of show a bit of an anticlimactic finish. My opponent had done well to stabilize the the outer points, I mean, I quite deliberately abandoned this point just because I knew I couldn't really hold it. He's taken this one here with quite an influx of infantry, 2 units of bulls, 2 units of noblars, and he has a fairly close spawn point here with a number of units of infantry who could come and contest this. So yeah, somewhat, you might argue it's somewhat of an anticlimactic finish, but I feel like I actually played this quite well. I played the width of the field well, used my mobility nicely, used the hounds first and foremost as a capping mechanism and then just a support mechanism to the flesh hounds. And yeah, a good win, other than maybe some misplays early on with my Exalted Bloodletter, letting him probably take a little bit too much fire from the Iron Blasters and the Man-Eaters and stuff like that. I felt like I played that quite well in the end. So yeah, the spawn, getting decent value. I think they cost 900 off the top of my head, and against ogres, just where their high weapon strength is very much appreciated here, I think, and the fact that they will win through leadership, because against anything other than gorges, they're just going to inflict so much damage that even if they get down to 2 or 3 unit models left, the ogre infantry is wavering. They will obviously absolutely slaughter noblars. Flesh hounds, awesome unit, really good unit, and we see even some chevrons here on my hounds who did a lot of work. Never going to cause a ton of damage against a faction like ogres. Particularly as their leadership's quite low, and they don't take damage well, so they can be useful for capping points and sort of organising yourself for fights, allowing flesh hounds not to get sort of countercharged. But they are a very good utility unit. Khorne is actually quite a mobile faction. They are obviously the typical rush faction. Having a look at my reinforcements, didn't actually use the Skull Crushers. Found it more sort of beneficial just to be sort of getting infantry back in onto the cap points, the central cap point. A lot of value on those halberds, not summoned there. And then the Bloodletter's doing reasonably well for themselves, the one that came in. But yeah, look at the flesh hounds, 700 gold. It's an absolute steal. They are really undercosted. More hounds, just offering me some more options, and then some furies. Pretty much the only fury unit I used was that one in the early game, just to basically throw them in and sacrifice them. Cultists as well. Very abusable unit with the way you can recall them and refresh their summon. I think the Bloodletter is probably the best summon of the lot of them. The Slaanesh Cultist to me is probably the best one at the moment in terms of their dueling ability and the fact that they have a lot of AP and very good stats. Immune to psychology as well makes them a very good duelist and cycle charger. But the Cultists of Khorne is definitely an A grader. So for Darth Nihilus forces, yeah, as you can see, I think this will sort of form the basis of a fairly meta ogre army. Scrag, the Iron Blaster up front just to sort of pull the teeth out of your opponent. The Stonehorn was a cool pick. Surprised with it doesn't have more HP. I think it only has something like 7.3 or 7.4, but yeah, did a bit of work in the early game. And then the Man-Eaters with great weapons certainly did a bit of damage, but just got worn down through attrition by the spawn. Not Blood Trap is actually doing pretty well, but yeah, Gorges in reserve. We saw a couple of them not get actually summoned. I didn't see as much of them as what I thought, but the Man-Eaters are an interesting unit. I feel like they're potentially quite dangerous, and the Saber Tusk's probably just a worse version of Flesh Hounds in the end, but still the mobility is important. But a lot of cheap reinforcements here with obviously good capping potential and good speed to get to the cap points, but also just fairly meaty in their own right. Ogre Bulls here doing okay. A couple of them probably got summoned in a couple of times. So yeah, great game. One of probably the better wins or probably the best player that I've played so far on the quick battle ladder system. And yeah, hopefully we'll be having more in the coming days. Khorne to me feels like a very good beginner faction. So if you're watching this and you're sort of new to the game, I'd say Khorne, less so than a lot of the other factions, relies not as much on a lot of internal synergy. They have a lot of units that are individually quite strong in their own right. So yeah, they're quite a simple faction. Khorne being quite a simple god, simple-minded, but yeah, fun to use. I've been definitely playing a lot with Khorne and enjoying them. Thanks for checking it out. We'll be back with more Total War Warhammer soon. Until then, take care.